allow the secretary to read the order.
Debate on vote number 20, Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities Appropriation Bill.
Thank you. I will now recognize the Honorable Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Dr. Cyril.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Deputy Minister in our department, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee and all the Portfolio Committee members, honorable members who are here, Chair of the Commission for Gender Equality, Chairperson of the NYDA, MC, and fellow South Africans. I'm really honored to present this budget for 20. The first time. Honorable Chair, House Chair, central to the mandate bestowed on this by this government, by our Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, is the determination to build a sovereign and democratic South African state that is anchored on the values of human dignity, achievement of equality, collective prosperity and well-being. Our Constitution foregrounds the Bill of Rights as the cornerstone of what should eventually resemble a just, equitable, and a more humane society. Honorable House Chair, despite the substantial and visible progress we've made in all spheres of development, we remain one of the most unequal societies. We have our population in poverty. We are the first to acknowledge that despite our best intentions, the systemic legacy of over 300 years of colonial conquest and exploitation and unabated plundering of the wealth resources of this country, of our land, and the resultant underdevelopment cannot be corrected and redressed in just under 3 decades of exploitation. It is also a reality that since the dawn of democracy, every effort of transformation has been resisted and challenged by those who have deep pockets and have the affinity to the past. And they've taken probably every measure that we are trying to transform this, especially the economy to court. But let me say in the words of Dr. Gallagher, and I quote, "Those who judge us merely by the heights we've achieved, we do well to remember the depths from which we started." What persists and is of particular concern to all of us is the extent to which our society remains characterized by an unhealthy concentration of income, wealth, power, and opportunities in the hands of the few. The picture worsens when we turn our attention to wealth inequality, assets inequality, and the disproportionate debt burden along racial lines. A study by the Southern Center for Inequality Studies has revealed that the top 10 wealthiest South Africans own 85.6% of the wealth, with an average net worth of 486 million. The richest 3.5 thousand South Africans own more wealth than the bottom 32 million altogether. On average, the poorest half of the South African adult population own more than they own. This means that even if they sold everything they had, women, children, youth, and persons with disability live in fear as they bear the worst of poverty, economic exclusion, an unprecedented nightmare of gender-based violence and genocide. Honorable House Chair, we are advocating for a significant change in our department's positioning and character. In addition to being an advocacy department, we're going to implement some projects primarily concerned with advancing the interests of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. We have adopted an all of government and all of society approach in livelihood restoration, wealth creation, poverty, and hunger elimination. Special projects that will be rolled out across the country's poorest districts, where the greatest need is. As the President so emphasized, we need a step change for the purpose of completely disrupting the structural afterlives of an economy that for decades has thrived on unjust patterns of high accumulation and concentration of resources in ways that punish those who keep the wheels of South Africans as individuals and as a collective nation to live as equals, to live in peace and harmony, to be free from fear and want, and to seek a better life. As things stand, we do not live as equals. Communities live in fear due to violent crime and GBV. We do not live in peace and harmony, and neither are we free from fear. So, Honorable House Chair, the youth of this country represent a blessing with limitless potential and possibilities. However, the current state of poverty, idleness, and general economic inactivity amongst the population, general and youth in particular, cannot be left unattended. So in this financial year, under the guidance of the Commander-in-Chief, our department will rally all of government and all of society behind the finalization and implementation of a SANDF-led national service, primarily targeted at the women and persons with disabilities, and will accelerate our nation's post-pandemic reconstruction and attainment of our national development goals. The SANDF-led national service we have in mind will train and capacitate our youth to be resilient and self-sustaining, massify sector-specific skills development, power up our nation's industrialization aspirations, growth, and economic, and kickstart a deliberate skills revolution open to every South African son and daughter. We envisage this program to prepare young people to meet the country's current and future professional needs, and for a future free of want and insecurity. Honorable House Chair, as households and communities come to terms with the extent of the social, economic, and livelihood devastation that the COVID-19 pandemic left behind, poverty-stricken families and communities face numerous challenges, including weakened livelihoods, hunger, limited or no economic opportunity. These challenges contribute to a cycle of poverty that disproportionately affects women, children, youth, and persons with disability, particularly those in the rural and township communities.
I'm told that the people usually cannot hear. I'm not sure. So at least you can hear, but the volume is low. May I just request the ITC to help you with that?
Thank you.
My apologies, Chair. I am sorry to disturb the session, Chair. The sound is worse than when you started speaking. So we are unable to follow the minister's address virtually.
Can you hear me now on the virtual platform?
Yes, House Chairperson, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. You may proceed. Apologies, but your time will be stopped it as we started speaking.
Okay, thanks, House Chair. I don't know whether they can hear me now.
We can hear the minister, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you better now, Minister.
Okay, thanks. Against this backdrop, the department, in partnership with our universities, TVET colleges, and existing civil society organizations with the capacity to train and empower participating communities, will be rolling out what we call integrated farming cooperatives in South Africa's poorest districts during and beyond 2023-24 financial year, with a particular focus on youth, women, and persons with disability for poverty alleviation, livelihood restoration, food security, and wealth creation. The primary objective of these projects are to reduce the impact of extreme poverty, hunger, unemployment, and basic socio-economic insecurity, restore livelihoods, and build community wealth through integrated crop livestock farming cooperatives. Agricultural cooperatives to be rolled out in these districts will seek to maximize mutual support and economies of scale by enabling farming individuals, families, or communities to pool resources together, share equipment, and jointly purchase inputs and create economies of scale, lower the costs, increase their bargaining power with suppliers and buyers, and improve their productivity and competitiveness. Honorable House Chair, in addition to that, we are also collaborating with the Cooperative Banks Development Agency and other key stakeholders to develop a concept document to support more women, youth, and persons with disabilities to establish cooperative banking institutions. Empowering cooperatives through this niche approach will improve the sustainability and viability of cooperative-based businesses. Cooperative banks have always been an important part of many successful financial systems. We're confident that through our partnership with the Cooperative Bank Development Agency and other stakeholders, we go a long way towards improving financial and economic inclusion of the marginalized communities. Of course, if you look at the developed and developing countries, the majority of banks are cooperative banks, whether you look at France, Germany, Austria, and many others. We also learn from Miriam Makeba's iconic career not to underestimate the power of the creative industry. This industry is not only central to the soul of a nation, it has a potential to create millions of jobs, as we have seen through Hollywood in Nigeria, Bollywood in India, and also from the rest of the world. This industry has a ripple effect on other sectors of the economy by generating a demand for goods and services from suppliers, manufacturers, and distributors. A single production, for example, creating direct job opportunities in related industries such as logistics, hospitality, fashion, project management, transport, and many other economic sectors. Artists, like sports people, also become ambassadors of our country. In our bid to harness the potential of this industry, we are in discussion with various social partners to establish community-based recording studio, at least one this year, maybe more later, to enable communities, particularly young people, to record their music and explore their creative abilities. Further working with the NYDA, work has commenced towards the establishment of a radio station. We are told that we are an advocacy department, but where is the platform to advocate? So yes, that's why we are going to create a radio station, which will ensure a seamless communication and dissemination of information and receive feedback from communities about opportunities and the government's collective work in support of women, youth, and persons with disability. There must also be a preferential procurement for youth, women, persons with disability, and military veterans. The persistent lack of significant economic participation and representation across many socioeconomic categories has led to increase in gender inequality in our nation. There are also several aspects of gender-based violence and femicide that are directly linked to the lack of women empowerment. As a department, our key areas of women empowerment are social and economic, wherein our focus on women empowerment and research is a South Africa where women should be participating fully in every area of human endeavor, whether it's academia, judiciary, economy, politics, and many other areas. This is particularly because women's empowerment is a key for the empowerment of society at large. That is why we will be working on initiatives to revive the issue of the oceans economy. The sector is a big economic frontier that we have not yet fully explored. This year's National Women's Month will spotlight one of the department's priority programs on the oceans economy under the theme, Harnessing Opportunities in the Oceans Economy for Women's Socio-Economic Empowerment. The program will focus on the diverse sectors of the oceans economy, such as maritime transport, aquaculture, underwater, biodiversity, gas exploration, tourism, leisure, and many other related areas. This is not just for women, it's also for youth and persons. Honorable Speaker, the current financial year, in the current financial year, the NYDA will target the following: training of more than 25,000 young people to be youth entrepreneurs. 2,000 youth-owned entrepreneurs will receive financial assistance in grant. These enterprises will go on to create 6,000 jobs in the economy. The NYDA will also support all of government approach to the national service. So we're working with NYDA also with the National Defense Force. Then 10,000 young people will be placed in jobs through the National Pathway Management Network. 50,000 young people will be recruited in the structured National Youth Service, where young people will earn an income, learn skills, and increase their employability. To date, through its partnership with the private sector, Youth Employment Service has reached the milestone of 100,000 quality work opportunities for young South Africans, injecting over 4.6 billion into the economy through the year's youth salaries. The NYDA has identified an opportunity to support young people in the transport sector, with research showing a rapid rise in the last mile delivery service. This market is expected to grow to reach $200 billion globally by 2027. So the NYDA will be assisting young people to train to get driver's licenses, whether it's cars or scooters. And they will roll out this customized training program for the last mile drivers that meets the specific needs of industries who have a last mile function. They will train 200 unemployed individuals from townships and rural areas as SMMEs to take up last mile delivery opportunities. And which will include a stipend, driver's license training, venture creation training, and customer service training. Provide individuals with a combination of hard and soft skills required for the last mile transport industry. Ensure that the individuals meet specific sets of employers' requirements. Provide trained new startup businesses to secure opportunities by providing each young person with a motorbike, helmet, gloves, cell phone, and working capital, and insurance support for 4 months. Develop a vetted database of trained last mile drivers for industries to source both fully employed and independent drivers. We're delighted, Honorable House Chair, that the House has approved the South African Sign Language to become the 12th official language in the country. And the department will be working with the PEN South African Language Board, the deaf community, and other stakeholders to develop a plan of action how to mainstream the sign language in our society. As part of our advocacy work aimed at increasing the level of awareness, information, and knowledge about the different disabilities, the department will work with other partners to publish manuals on different areas of disability. The DM will also expand on some of the areas I've mentioned. We will be in partnership with health and related stakeholders on disabilities, develop guidelines in the following areas: mental health, autism, epilepsy, acceptable terminology, disability, blind disability, but also we make sure that the campaign against the attack of persons with albinism in South Africa is abolished. We will also be partnering with academic and research institutions to shine a light on climate change adaptation and vulnerabilities of persons with disability. The department will also support the development framework of self-representation, and we will make sure that we live up to the slogan, nothing about us without us. Honorable House Chair, women continue to suffer what the president called the second pandemic, gender-based violence and femicide. And I want to quote the president as he spoke. I quote, "I stand before the women and girls of South Africa this evening to talk about another pandemic that is raging in our country, the killing of women and children by the men of our country. As a man, as a husband, and as a father, I'm appalled at what is no less than a war waged against the women and children of our country." And of course, together with that, I want to quote, make it Gertrude Shope, when she said, I quote, "Every generation has got a responsibility to know what its mission is. Mine was to liberate the country. What is yours?"
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And maybe to inform the Honorable Minister that I didn't want to disturb her and I took 2 minutes from you at the slot. Thank you.
Okay, I ask you to support this budget. And thank all of those who have worked with us, all your committee, to the department, and
Thank
all
you,
the
Honorable
stakeholders.
Minister. We now recognize the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, the Honorable Dawa.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, honorable members, DG of the department and the CEO of NYDA, distinguished guests, and Bahlali baseMzansi siyabulisa. The ANC supports this budget. The Reconstruction and Development Program policy document provided a solid basis for many ANC policies and further translated to government, calling for no one to be left behind in reconstructing our country for the better. And it argues, and I quote, regardless of race or sex, or whether they are rural or urban, rich or poor, the people of South Africa must together shape their own future. I close quote. The work of the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities and its entities, by virtue of its support for marginalized and disadvantaged groups, is a driver of people-centered development, aiming to ensure that women, youth, and persons with disabilities are not excluded and reach their potential. The Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities is responsible for oversight of the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities, as well as Commission for Gender Equality, which is a Chapter 9 institution, and the National Youth Development Agency, which is a key statutory entity. The department, the NYDA and CGE, has a combined focus on what is arguably the most important components of the South African population. With this in mind, programs, targets, and budgets must be carefully scrutinized with an aim at ensuring that the rights and development of women, young people, and persons with disabilities are prioritized. Over the last financial year, there have been significant structural changes that included the appointment of a new minister and a deputy minister, a new CGE chair, deputy chair, commissioners, and CEO, and a new NYDA chief financial officer. This change will breathe new life and vigor into important structures in our country. On the 6th March 2023, the President appointed Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as the new Minister for Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, and Deputy Minister Sisisi Dolashe and Deputy Minister Sisisi Dolashe. Under new leadership, we are confident that the department will continue to improve on its focus on uplifting the rights of women, youth, and persons with disabilities through its mandate. On mandate change, a notable change in the department's main mandate was the shift from being a regulatory department to the original mandate as per its annual performance plan 2023-2024, which states that the department is to lead on socio-economic transformation and implementation of the empowerment and participation of women, youth, and persons with disabilities through mainstreaming, advocacy, monitoring, and evaluation. This is a significant and important change that is strongly supported by the Portfolio Committee. This mandate is in line with the ANC 55th resolution when it calls for greater support for marginalized groups by all and especially by government. The element of monitoring is key to ensuring that all commitments are implemented. The ANC 55th conference resolutions made this strong call that, and I quote, the state has a responsibility to be biased towards disadvantaged and marginalized groups, and that it has added responsibility to ensure their enjoyment of all their rights, including the rights to life, choice, privacy, and security. During his State of the Nation address, the president emphasized challenges related to women youth in the country, highlighting matters pertaining to gender-based violence and unemployment. Honorable House Chair, in terms of the department's budget, National Treasury indicated that over the MTEF period, the department will continue to focus on addressing gender-based violence and supporting empowerment, promoting responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation across government, supporting youth empowerment, and promoting the rights of people with disabilities. Of the overall government budget, which is 1 trillion, a total of 1 billion, which is 0.1%, is allocated to the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities under Vote 20. As per the National Treasury 2023 estimates of national expenditure. However, it must be noted that from this annual appropriation of 1 billion, the department facilitates transfer payments to two entities, namely the CGE and the NYDA. During the 2023-2024 financial year, the department is expected to transfer 94.1 million to CGE, 733 million to NYDA. This means that the department will be left with an actual operating budget of approximately 209 million to undertake its programs and meet its targets for 2023-2024. Of the 209 million, 126, which is 60% of the department's operating budget, is allocated to compensation of employees. 76.4 million, which is 36%, to goods and services, and 3.8 million to payments for capital assets. Honorable House Chair, we remained concerned about the lack of integration and coordination between programs within the department, as well as the lack of synergy between the NYDA and the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with disabilities, especially with Program 4 of the department. This program focuses on matters related to both youth and persons with disabilities. In this regard, a continued concern pertains to the merging of youth and disabilities into one program. These are two very distinct target populations that requires very specific interventions and consideration. In terms of legislation, the Disability Rights Bill must be prioritized as it has fallen off the department's agenda and is no longer reflected in its APP. Gender-based violence and femicide remains a growing concern in our country. The department must bolster its efforts to address this serious challenge. This must be reflected in the department's targets, as it appears to be lacking in this financial year's APP. Furthermore, more information on the establishment, funding, and implementation of rapid response teams across the country is imperative. Whilst we welcome a focus on the Women's Economic Assembly, this should be sharpened to ensure tangible outcomes in terms of economic empowerment for women in the country. A considerable amount of resources has been allocated to sanitary dignity program, while there is a need for uniformity in implementation of the SDP across provinces. The program itself is necessary intervention for young girls. Streamlining this program can only enhance the development of young girls in learning institutions. At present, women account for just 50% of the South African population. The department's mandates also includes young people and persons with disabilities. While we support the budget as tabled, we emphasize the need to relook at the allocation in the new financial year in order to adequately give expression to the department's mandate. On the National Youth Development Agency, Honorable House Chair, the very important documents of the ANC, Ready to Govern, underpins the basis of a South African youth policy to be guided by the following principle that, and I quote, the ANC believes that society has a responsibility to develop and nurture its youth, to allow them to reach their full potential in order to make a meaningful contribution as individuals and as members of society. Their resourcefulness, energy, and enthusiasm must be harnessed to allow them to play their meaningful role in our country, and I close quote. It is for this reason that institutions such as NYDA must be supported and resourced. Young men and women are the backbone of any thriving community. Ensuring their development ensures development of a nation. With that in mind, we commend the sterling work done by the NYDA. The NYDA values are underpinned by accountability, accessibility, respect, collaborative, agility, and integrity. The NYDA's vision is a credible, capable, and activist development agency that is responsive to plight of South Africa's youth. I won't go to its mission because you know it, honorable members. As per the revised strategic plan 2020-2025 and APP 2022-2023, the NYDA has now 3 programs, namely Program 1, Administration, Program 2.
Honorable member,
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Siphambi kwakho nje. Nayiva ibovu.
So you saw that you got extra 12 seconds. It's in front of you. Thank you very much. Let me recognize the Honorable Cyril.
Thank you, House Chairperson. The Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities is failing in its duty to bring about change in South Africa. The role of the department cannot be understated when looking at the realities and experiences of everyday life. The fact of the matter is, this government does not care about women, they do not care about young people, and they definitely do not care about persons with disabilities. This is evident in their so-called APP and budget. When this is interrogated, it is clear that this department has no clue about what is happening on the ground and the issues faced by people every single day. After 4 years, they have nothing to show for the work they are meant to be doing. If this is not an indication of their failure, I don't know what is. The truth is that this department is failing, and it is the people in this country that suffer. The only thing the DA welcomes is the change in the department's mandate. Moving back to its original mandate is better aligned with what the department needs to do. Provide leadership as well as coordinate government's response to the issues facing women, youth, and persons with disabilities. However, House Chairperson, the lack of understanding of the mandate of the department internally, how it is operationalized, and overall understanding by the country at large remains one of the department's biggest challenges. People don't know what you do. You need to get it together. The removal of key targets show that the department is still far removed from the realities on the ground. Everything you mentioned, Minister, will mean nothing if there are no targets that are attached to your plans. By removing targets focused on key legislation and having targets that are simply to produce a report, like literally their target is to produce a report, is not smart. It is not aligned to the needs of the people, It is a waste of time and honestly a sign of mad disrespect. This APP cannot be accepted and it must change in order to reflect the needs of all women, youth, and persons with disabilities. The high rates of GBVF in this country, and especially amongst young people, continues unabated. The department is meant to lead the fight and coordinate government's response to GBVF and foster women empowerment, but Minister, Program 2 is underfunded. The activities and targets show a lack of vision and nothing on leadership, innovation, and solutions. The department must reassess its role in the fight against GBVF. It must take up the mantle and fight without fear or favor for the safety of women and members of the LGBT+ community. The Sanitary Dignity Program is in disarray. The framework that is meant to be in place is not being implemented. There are no reporting lines, a lack of uniformity across provinces, and any monitoring and evaluation this department has reported on is ineffective and it is weak. It is the girls in schools that are dependent on sanitary products that are once again let down by this failing department. Tutuzela care centers across the country are falling apart because of a lack of resources and capacity. There is no uniformity across TCCs. There are no specific reporting lines, and with no line item for TCCs makes it exceptionally difficult to assess allocations for GBVF specific matters. TCCs are so important, Minister, because it should be a one-stop for victims and survivors to get assistance when they have been assaulted and raped. The DA has consistently raised these issues in Parliament, and yet it continues to fall on deaf ears. The merger of youth and persons with disabilities show that the department does not take young people and persons with disabilities seriously. The lack of budget, the lack of spending, and the lack of capacity speaks loudly. If this department cared, it would reflect in their APP and in their budget, but it does not. Young people in Ennerdale, in Johannesburg, like many other young people across this country, struggle with substance abuse, with most young people getting addicted by the young age of at least 15 years old. The department needs to do more to provide opportunities to young people, as so many young people are already despondent and cannot see any positivity to motivate them to do better for themselves, their families, and their communities. The chances of young people succeeding in a broken system is already so low, and the department has no tangible plans to assist young people and should hang their heads in shame. Looking at the NYDA, the DA welcomes the efforts to source funding through their own donor funding initiatives. The biggest challenge remains access to the NYDA and its services. Young people in Ennerdale, Aldos, and Saldanha, for example, have no idea who the NYDA is and what they do. Young people must be given opportunities to enter the job market and the economy. The lack of skills development and mentorship programs available for young people in these areas and across the country remains a challenge, and the NYDA must ensure they expand their reach. Chairperson, the CGE is a mess. I am unable to even speak on it because what we received was an embarrassing copy and paste rush job of an APP and budget. The CGE must resubmit and stop messing the women of this country around. As a Chapter 9 institution, you must do better. Minister Dlamini Zuma, you have a big task ahead of you in this new portfolio. We expect you to take the issues faced by women, youth, and persons with disabilities seriously, relook at your APP and budget, and ensure your department submit an erratum to change the APP so it is more aligned with the needs of the people. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Ma'am Kaula, so right, I really. Honorable Ma'am Kaula, thank you very much. I saw you were struggling. You said you are on virtual, but you managed to come. We really commend you. Please leave this once alone. Your time is done. Thank you.
Ngibonge chairperson ngibingelele upresident wami commander in chief no DP nayo ngu-CCT. Okay, ngiyasheshisa ke. Osazana minister lo mnyango uhluleke hayi indaba yokudlala. 2014 ngibengile lo mnyango awukho into yenzela abantu besifazane. Yabona nje lo basket kwenziwa abantu besifazane ukukhombisa ukuthi nifeyila kanjani la ANC. Uyabona ukwatapeya wenziwa bani abantu besifazane bayalima. I'm not joking. Upatata lo linywa abantu besifazane. Amadumbe la uyawazi. Banana lo thathwa omncane. Umbuzo wami uthi abantu besifazane bayohlupheka kuze benini na? Besikhala ngabelungu be-apartheid. Namhlanje khona nina abantu abamnyama nina niphethe iminyama nihlula nje ukuthuthukisa ebhulwa la usuka khona. Abantu bayalima, abantu besifazane ukwazi kahle khona indawo la enzinga baze besusa amanzi entabeni. Ngamapayipi bezochelela ingadi zabo nihlule ukubathuthukisa. Laba basket engikhuluma ngabo akho bamhlabi yalengane. Lokho kudla kwasendweni kwaphumula. Yini eyenza ukuthi lingayi kulabantu besifazane? Nibanikeze izimali nibakwazi balini. Lana kunamanga akhuluma ukuthi labantu njengakomambedweni komaphumulo benza amadumbe. Kwathiwa bazothengelwa umshini kuze benze ama-chips. Kuze bemanje nikaze nikwenze lokho. Yini inkinga na? Aniyi kubantu. Nikhipha imali la nifake kuma-province komasipala bese ziyaphela singayi bantu. Ngiza ku-NYDA. NYDA ayenzi lutho. Ayiye emakhaya abantu ayaziwa. Iseka ANC yayigcina nje ukuxoxwa ngayo ayiyi hlobo kubantu. Kodwa izimali zikhona siyaphuma. Ihlulwa ukwenza nje just i-database yokuthi zingaki izingane okufanele ziyongena ema-university. Ukuze lezi ngane ingagcine ihlele ekhaya zibe yiphase kahle. Ihlulwa ukwenza i-database yokuthi zingaki izingane ebeziphase ema-university ukuze ihambe iyoxoxisana neminyango ka-government nomasipala. Ubafaka emsebenzini bayeke ukufaka iy'poki lezi ey'gcwele koThekwini. Anikwazi ukwenza lokho lo mnyango ka-NYDA. Ingakho ngiye ngithi angifuni ukubhalelwa umuntu ispeech ngifuna ukuyikhulumela. La kunento yaka CGE. Mnyango bese uthembe kunayo yonke. Because ukwazi mina myself usufonela usukumye endaweni. Kodwa manje unenkinga. Awusakwenzi usufika fanele ireport unikeze before ulifikise manje. Kuyimanje la eWestern Cape ivaliwe office. Umbuzo wami la eWestern Cape actually ngideploye la. Gugulethu, Philip, bayafa abantu bayareyishwa bafakwa ngaphansi kombhede amasoka abo. Sizobikwaphi lezo nkinga? Lento ingiphatha kabi ngoba umuntu mengibona ngibiza ngo-honorable member of parliament. Yini engizoyijabula ukuthi member of parliament abantu bathi behlupheka. Chesterville kungcono Nkosazana Zuma ngoba ubekwe wena iphela lapho. Chesterville kunomfana lapha kuthiwa uNdlebe. Isipho. Bambiza ukuthi uCaptain. Because wayekade eboshiwe. Kusho ukuthi mayiboshiwe waphuma uyakwazi ukutshela iyouth ukuthi ijele linjani. Ukwazi ukuqoqa labantwana laba abangene ezidakamizweni. Yes. Abazama ukubakhipha kuzona. Kodwa kade ngqongqoza even emnyangweni uqobo kamini kaPrima akathola isizo. Kuyimanje lo mfana njengoba ngikhuluma naye imoto yakhe bebesho kuyiqeda ngoba laba abadayisa idakamizwa kubhlungu kubona ngoba ubalela ama-client abo. Umbuzo wami ke uthi ke ngempela yini enijabulisa ukuthi ningo-honorable womenisi eParliament but i-youth phansi yabo ema-university ema-next door khona kukhona amajoyinti. Asikaze nibone ngixolele kancane nje ngangakuzwa isikhathi se-lockdown uthi utshwala abuvali nogwayi ngakuthanda lapho kodwa ngikujabulisa. Yini indaba na utshwala ibona sebuyiqedile i-youth nithini nina njengo-government amajoyinti avula 24 hours phakathi emalokishini abantu into ibingekho before. Ngizonitshela nje okukodwa manje efana bengiyakwenza gqugquzelani le minyango iyeke ukugcina komasipala hambelani emakhaya. Amakhaya abantu bakhona abawazi ama-rights abo nokuthi umuntu wesifazane akakwazi ukuthi hayi namhlanje akufuni ukulala nawe ndoda because aniko batshela wazi yena ukuthi nje mangabe umfazi kufuneka indoda ahambe yotheza izinkuni abuye lapha azonjani azolala nawe ukhathela akakhathela. Okwesibili enokhuze nolundi ngabe kwesibili kwesithathu olundi kuneyinkubela ezibulawa yilwane ephuma esiqiwini. Nkosazana ngicela uhambe oyilwane yakhe ngoba umini iPremier nalo ubani uDumandini lo uyile naye woqamba amanga lapha kuphuma izilwane lapha zenze njani ziluma ingane. Kunengane nje imizwa kaButhelezi onengane yakhe efika uma wayo okhamanzi emfuleni wafika iphelile ihamba namanketshane. Sengigcina noma ngigcina noma ngiqhubeka ngicela abantu ngabe siyakhuluma manje. Ya uyabanga kaChair wethu we-portfolio committee uyayibisela ukubona lo mnyango usebenza.
Thank you, Mama.
But inkinga ikunina anikwazi nokumonitha nokuthi tebula emva kwami anikwazi ukumonitha nokuthi izimali.
Honorable member, your time is up. Thank you very much.
Shani Hlombeka,
Thank you very much. Honorable member, as you go down, I didn't want to disturb.
Budget reject.
Honorable member, your time is up. Thank you. Yeah, on the honorable member, I just didn't want to disturb you. In Rule 82, you know what it says about ukuhlonipha. Ungambizi ngegama. Ngabo sewathi umama unkosazana. No, I didn't want to disturb you. Secondly, we know that we have a rule in terms of what you can bring to the house, and you must first get permission. But what I like is that it talks of dangerous things. That's why I allowed it to go. Thank you. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Honorable members, we now proceed to Umamuhle.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable House Chair, let me say the IFP supported this vote. According to the statistics, South Africa, women make up 51% of South Africa population. Youth age 15 years and younger about 28.3%. Youth age 15 to 34 years account for
34%, and person with disability around 7.5 of our population. The department impacts the lives of more than half of our population and vast majority of South Africa's vulnerable persons. The IFP agrees with the recent Portfolio Committee report. The Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability that can and must and do more. It must follow through on targets it has committed to and not just drop them from the APP without explanation. The IFP is deeply concerned that targets related to the monitoring and evaluation of the police station and Tutuzela Care Center, as well as court monitoring, were discontinued and no longer appear as targets. Ngifisa ukusho mama ukuthi njenge-IFP siyafisa ukugqugquzela ukuthi le minyango esisebenza nayo nawo osebenza nayo ukubona ukuthi kuyenzeka ukuthi nanxa sikubuka ukuthi khona lapha ezikoleni abadisable abanakiwe kunakwe laba bama-wheelchairs kuphela. Kukhona izikole mama okuthiwa ama-full service lapho khona izikole ezine-autism. Ingane zakhona zintula nje i-learner transport. Ngakho bengingacela ukuthi mhlambe lo mnyango ubone ku-education ukuthi ama-learner transport kulezi izikole ne-autism ngoba zona ziyi-full service ayenzeka zibakhona abakhona lawo ma-transport. The women, children and vulnerable persons who are victims of gender-based violence often report secondary victimization and authorized or a lack of resources and support. Cheers. How can monitoring and evaluation of police station, Tutuzela Care Center and court to be discontinued? Who will speak for the voiceless? According to the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development website, we currently have 54 Tutuzela Care Center in South Africa. We want more than that because these incidents have been daily implemented and daily violated of these people who are vulnerable. Wanongoma nje kunesalwazi esareyisho ngoba singakwazi uhamba sireyisho umngane umntanaso ngoba azuthi akekho. Uyazi ukuthi makuvalwe nje lapha eminyango ngeke azafike waba isisulu lo gogo wanongoma kwa-Ward 9. Ngakho ngiyafisa ukuthi lo mnyango uhambe to go to an extra mile kakhulukazi ama-CGEs ethu. Siyakhala-ke kakhulu nange-budget, siyakhala futhi uma kuwukuthi ukhona la ku-underspendiwe khona. Siyafisa mama siyakwethemba ukuthi akusezukwenzeka ukuba ku-underspendwe kukhona izidingo ezikhona. I thank you.
Sithokoze Mhlonishwa. Honorable Briet.
Honorable Chairperson, I've said this many times and I will say it again. If the ANC really prioritized equal opportunities for all, and focused on true empowerment for our youth and had not just paid lip service to this, we would not be in the situation that we are currently in. As is, I do not know what this department or its youth development entity concretely does to empower the youth of South Africa. This department, as it currently stands, is a farce. Stats South Africa's quarterly labor force report was recently published, and it showed that 250,000 young people lost their jobs in the first quarter of 2023. That is shocking. And that leads to the youth unemployment rate, measuring job seekers between the ages of 15 and 24, to rise to a staggering 62.1%. That is the highest in a year. This has gone up 1.1% from the last quarter. Participation in employment, education, and training is important for youth to find employment and to live self-sustainably. Youth in South Africa, however, continue to be disadvantaged in the labor market with an unemployment rate that is higher than the national average. South Africa has 10 million youth between the ages of 15 and 24 years of age. And of these, only 2.5 million are active in the labor force. That brings us to the largest share of 7.7 million young people in this age group that are out of the labor force and inactive. The main reason for their inactiveness is because they have lost hope in finding a job and or a job in their area where they reside. Young people do not need another party hosted by the NYDA. We do not need another short-term job opportunity created by the state without the necessary skills transfers. They do not need another handout. What they need is a labor market unburdened by strict legislation, keeping them out of employment. They need skills training that they can practically implement when joining the labor force. They need true assistance when assistance is offered. We need to empower our youth to become independent and free from the shackles of government providing for their whole being. I want to commend the committee for questioning whether the NYDA monitors beneficiaries when receiving funds from the NYDA to ensure that these funds are efficiently used. This is what should happen automatically to ensure that there is not only value for money, but that businesses can become self-sufficient. This is how true empowerment really works. What is also welcomed from the committee is when they queried what the NYDA tends to do when assessing the effectiveness of market linkages and mentorship programs in the year ahead. These are important areas, and this is how we can support young entrepreneurs. Taking a look at the NYDA, we see that according to their website, they see themselves as lobbyists and advocates for youth development. This is noble, but this doesn't get the job done. They also spend a lot of money on creating jobs and finding jobs in government for these youth. Let me be clear when I say this. The NYDA cannot address the issue of youth unemployment by themselves or by forcing government departments or the SANDF to create these short-term projects and job opportunities. If we are bent on keeping the NYDA, they should focus on development and support. They need to empower young people to be able to either get a job or to be able to create a job for themselves and others. Young entrepreneurs, for example, they might need assistance when it comes to the drawing up of a business plan. And this is what the NYDA should focus on and be able to assist with. I differ from the portfolio committee when we talk about the resolve and that the NYDA needs to improve on their branding, especially in rural areas, to ensure young people are aware of their services. Branding alone will not solve the problem of the NYDA. Branding alone will not improve the services rendered by the NYDA to people in rural communities. And they will not improve the lives of these people. The NYDA needs to focus on priority projects to get youth to actively participate, to improve their chances of being skilled and being able to enter the labor force. The NYDA are failing our young people. This department is failing our youth. South African youth deserve better. I thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. The Honorable Sukkers has been granted permission to speak from the virtual platform. May
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The crisis in our country is deepening. The factors of an economic slowdown and levels of inequality is worsened by the catastrophic failures of government. The people most negatively affected by load shedding, municipal services delivery failures that are incendiary in its magnitude are poor and vulnerable women and children and people living with disabilities regardless of race. On Sunday afternoon here on the outskirts of Kimberley, a woman stood with 3 children ranging in ages from 6 months to 14 years. Their vulnerability in the early evening next to a road forced me to stop. I learned that she is a woman alone raising 2 sons and a baby girl while her husband is serving a long sentence in Kimberley. Her choices in this world are severely limited due to a lack of education and limited skills. She survives on grants. She is in her early 30s, but hardship has aged and hardened her to the point where hope is a dream. On Monday, we met with community leaders in Warrenton. He is living without water for over 3 months after significant flood damage to infrastructure. It is women and children that are forced to walk for 20 kilometers to get to water distribution points. A disabled woman, Esther Solomons, is forced to pay people to carry water to a shanty. Load shedding and plant maintenance for the next 2 weeks will severely impact even the emergency water supply. It is a case study in municipal dysfunction. Women and children are at the forefront of the war that we are losing. We are burying her husband. We are burying her children. And in this country, we are burying her. The question we should ask in this budget review is, what is the real-time impact of the department at a grassroots level? What is the reason that we have this department in which we invest more than $1 billion of hard-earned taxpayers' money? If its value cannot be translated into how many lives are transformed and impacted through its existence. It's a simple matrix of impact versus investment, Minister. The department has undergone several changes in its mandate, and we certainly hope that we're done with the word salads and government spending money on government rather than real-time service delivery. We cannot spend money on keeping civil servants in employment. This crisis demands fast-tracking solutions and crisis management with real-time impact on the ground. We are facing the consequences of poor political leadership and dysfunction. Politicians are squandering the trust of people. Its full impact, if nothing short of a miracle happens, will be felt and seen in the months ahead. The ACDP cannot support this vote. We cannot. We are on a slow-moving train. While we as politicians are paid, civil servants are getting salaries, tender entrepreneurs are getting millions, women, children, people living with disabilities are carrying water in buckets, dying in toilets, burying sons. We are living on a tropical island and they are living the harsh reality of no service delivery. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The next speaker will be the Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities.
Honorable Chairperson, Minister, Chairperson of the President, honorable members, DG and team, good day. It was as far as 1913 that women struggled for community rights and gender equality. It is for this reason that women called for explanation because it was the men who had authority in the society and women's role was primary and domestic one. They were feeding and caring for the family. They were not expected to concern themselves with matters outside. When the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa in 1996, with its Bill of Rights, was promulgated, our women in South Africa were looking forward because they thought it will save them from their patriarchal challenges, which at that time already demonstrated toxic masculinity, harmful gender norms,
and social behaviors that drive and enable gender-based violence and femicide. Ngathi bekungenele, Honorable Chair, the COVID-19 pandemic has even brought stark inequalities squarely to the fore and served to magnify, amplify, and combine all existing forms of social injustice, including gender inequality and its various manifestations. Hence, the resolution of the summit that was convened by the President were adopted to respond to the key game changer question: what more can be done to enforce accountability, accelerate, and amplify efforts? Chair, the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide continues to plague the country, despite progress made in driving the national response. It is indeed for this reason that our country will never be prosperous or free until all our people live in peace, enjoy equal rights and opportunity. Chair, many harmful acts of gender-based violence and femicide are driven by embedded behavior and attitude held by men towards women. This underscores the need to prioritize, sustain education and behavioral modeling with specific attention given to men and boys at national, provincial, and local government level. Chair, a holistic consultative approach will be taken in line with linkage to health and social needs such as teenage pregnancy, HIV and AIDS, substance abuse, harmful cultural practices, the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. The criminal justice, as we speak, will consult first on all quick win, medium, and short-term interventions, identify and enforcing law, and acceleration in implementing the resolution that relates to protection, safety, and justice. The proposed national plan, once tabled at the criminal justice cluster, will be tabled at the South African Forum of Director Generals. The institutionalization of strategic plan, the department will ensure that plan serves on the agenda of the President's coordinating committee. This will ensure that the intergovernmental aspect is elevated and service are strengthened at the municipal level as gender-based violence and femicide happens at that level. Chair, during 2020-2021 financial year, the department signed a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. Around 6 priorities are identified. The steering committee was established, which produced the following achievements. 1, the access and the acquisition of land. And in that one, 37% factors allocated to women against that, a target of 50%. Secondly, the priority 3, the rural enterprise and cooperative development. A total 91 corps, which 334 members were trained, and in there 155 are women, 131 are youth, and 2 persons with disability. Priority 4, at skills development. A total of 969 students enrolled at agricultural colleges. 760 of them are Black, and more of them at 50% level are female. Honorable Chairperson, the South African Law Reform Commission of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development is due to publish the discussion paper on disability rights bill. Once published, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability will roll out wide consultation with the disability sector, the legal fraternity, and the academia. Chair, we are pleased to also announce that the protocol of the African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights on the Rights of Persons with Disability in Africa is to be deposited at the African Union. The department will ensure domestication of the AU protocols. To take the work forward, Chair, following the National Assembly approval that South African Sign Language become the 12th official language in South Africa, the South African Sign Language is offered as a subject in the school curriculum in South Africa. The department, the Pan South African Language Board, and the deaf community and other stakeholders will continue to work together to realize the aspects and the processes of South African Sign Language Charter. Responsible stakeholders will, in line with the Charter, implement measures to ensure South African Sign Language is made available to public to effect accessibility communication for persons who are deaf. The department hosted at the Economic Summit for Persons with Disability with objective to dismantle the barriers limiting access and participation of persons with disability in the mainstream economy. Chair, it is be that some individuals and communities within our country still believe in harmful superstitions and myths surrounding albinism. Persons with albinism remain targets of femicide, kidnapping, and atrocities. The department, in partnership with the Task Force on Albinism, will develop a program to advocate, educate, and create awareness around the prevention of discrimination and violence against persons with disability. The department will also continue to monitor compliance with national and international obligations for the rights of persons with disability in accordance with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Chair, we will work on this in partnership with relevant stakeholders, particularly the National Home Builder Registration Council and Department of Public Works, amongst other stakeholders. We also will collaborate with various partners, including the United Nations Partnership on the Rights of Persons with Disability, the International Disability Alliance, University of Johannesburg, the University of Ghana, the York University on research and recommendation on the climate change effects on persons with disability. Honorable Chair, the status report on the impact of climate change on persons with disability and how they should be included in climate change action will be developed by the department. Research will be conducted on access to education, support service for children and young people with disabilities. The research will serve as an evidential basis to mobilize the public and private sector to provide resource and assistive devices to special and mainstream schools that have learners with disabilities. Chair, I'm also pleased to announce that the department commissioned a formative evaluation study on the implementation of the gender responsive plan budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation framework. Chair, the finding of the evaluation pointed to more government departments that are implementing the framework. We acknowledge that more work still needs to be done to ensure that the priority of women, youth, and persons with disability are mainstreamed in plans of departments. Our monitoring, as reported in the Cabinet 2022, shows that of the 16 national departments that responded to the self-assessment monitoring, 8 departments were rated at over 50% level of implementation of the framework, and this is a welcome improvement. One of the challenges is the response rate by the department, and Cabinet has recommended that all national departments, provincial departments, and their entities must comply with the reporting requirements of our department. Honorable Chair, we continue to localize gender responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, evaluation framework. In 2022, we represented the framework at provincial portfolio-based councillors induction in 6 provinces. We are collaborating with Department of Cooperative Government and the South African local government, with the first priority being to conduct the gender, youth, and disability responsiveness analysis on the integrated development plans and other plans of the district model for 2023 and 2024. We must remain grounded and loyal to the mandate of improving the livelihood of the most vulnerable in society. Honorable Chair, when you rise, take one with you. We do all have a role to play.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm informed that Honorable Kwankwa will not be participating. So the next speaker will be Honorable.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Minister and Deputy Minister of the Department, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, the DG and the CEO of NYDA, fellow South Africans. Maybe I should start Makaula Bengkala Bona or Bengkala Madumbe and my chiefs. The Ready to Govern document of the ANC of 1992 acknowledged the growing youth population which persists even now. It is for that reason that the ANC policies fully recognize this important section of our society, with specific emphasis on the marginalized youth. The youth in this country continue to face elements of marginalization in various sectors. It is this basis which requires government and the private sector to create a conducive environment for the youth to channel their energies to productivity, enable them to reach their full potential and play a meaningful role in the country's development. Honorable members, the recent quarterly labor force survey for the first quarter of 2023 reported that youth aged 15 to 24 years and 25 to 34 years recorded the highest unemployment rates. Approximately 3.7 million out of 10.2 million young people aged 15 to 24 years were not in employment, education, or training. This is a problem we need to address as society, working with all social partners from government, business, labor, and civil society. As the African National Congress, we have prioritized the creations of jobs for the youth, as joblessness has a face of young people in this country. Young South Africans must be given opportunities for skills development for the present and the future to empower them to attain and benefit from the benefits of the democratic dispensation. The National Youth Development Agency has created multiple programs to assist youth in accessing opportunities and facilitating skills development for them to be better prepared for opportunities. The NYDA operates in all 9 provinces. We must say, CEO, that we want operational NYDA offices in all local municipalities in the country. Honorable members, a young man from Emalahleni, Mpumalanga, Mr. Ntokozo Joseph Mtsweni, who received funding from the NYDA to start his water purification plant, and his business is doing quite well and supplies local shops. It is true, young people like Joseph Mtsweni that we see the work of the NYDA. However, it is very important to consider into increasing the NYDA's funding allocation due to the task that lies with it, and try to overcome the crisis of youth unemployment in South Africa. We welcome that the NYDA will support 2,000 youth-owned enterprises with financial support and 20,000 youth with non-financial support. The NYDA has targeted the creation of 6,000 jobs. The NYDA will also create skill opportunities, and 20 young people will be placed. Honorable House Chairperson, the task of skilling the youth must be both public and private sector's affairs, as skilled youth benefits the government and the private sector. There are positive strides that can be made when all the efforts are organized and put together. Initiatives such as the National Youth Service Program and Youth Employment Services display what can possibly be achieved with the commitment of the government and the greater collaboration. The National Youth Service Program is understood to be the largest single service program for young people in the country, intending to help the youth acquire the occupational skills necessary to access sustainable livelihoods and opportunities. The Presidential Youth Employment Services has created over 1 million jobs at a 2.5 absorption rate. 4 years later, 100,000 jobs are created with 40% employment rate, and 77% of youth empowered or of youth employment services beneficiaries are women, and 61% of youth coming from grant recipient households. This shows that with collaboration, we can make an impact. Honorable members, many other interventions other than this are important, such as handling the issue of entry-level jobs and transforming the South African Defence Force through proper recruitment and succession plan. Entry-level jobs where someone can improve on a day-to-day interaction with the task allocated shouldn't require many years of experience. Institutions such as the South African Defence Force should be at the forefront, deliberately having aggressive youth recruitment plans for the spirit of patriotism. We welcome the focus of the department in this regard. State procurement should be used to transform youth-owned businesses with the intentions that when these businesses grow, youth may diversify their interest and build sustainable jobs. Honorable House Chairperson, TVET colleges and SETAs are key partners and stakeholders in youth skilling, both for the purpose of employment and entrepreneurship, and must greatly position themselves to help South African youth. The Department of Monitoring Monitoring and Evaluation, and the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities should continue to strengthen their monitoring and advocacy for the youth interest across all departments, state organs, and all spheres of government. Honorable House Chairperson, as I conclude, ngifuna kusho ukuthi load shedding letinye tinkinga lesibukene nato silusha lala in South Africa. Mizamo ye-NYDA and the funding programs in provinces assisting young people in opening their businesses iyanyatseleka ngalendo ye-load shedding. When there is no electricity, young people like Mr. Mtweni cannot operate their businesses. Sicela ukuthi uhulumende webantu aqhubeke asebenzele ukutikhandla ekulweni ne-load shedding. It is a matter of urgency that all social partners have the orientation to leave no one behind in their programs and in their projects. I dare say nothing progressive and developmental should be done in this country with the exclusion of the youth. As the African National Congress, we support the budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cyril. Honorable Cyril.
Na Kenta Chama Stool ke tla rata go isha madumaka wa Afrika Borwa ka bophara badudi ba Afrika Borwa maloko a tlhomphegileng ke rata go tamisha le moetapele wa rena ya tshwereng department ye Mama Nkosazana Zuma le motlatsa setulo sa gagwe Mam Tulashi rena bjalo ka lekgotla la badimo le batho re ema mo ke rata go tlakiša ba berekisane mmogo le nna gore re supporta budget vote ye ke re lekgotla la badimo le batho ngwa o fetileng le ile la tsenela kopano ya lona ya Congress ka December ga gare ga di ga poledišono ya rena ke gore the African National Congress made a big call that there must be measures taken to address issues of concerns to people living with disabilities. This must be done with great effort and sense of being deliberate issues affecting persons living with disability and must and should not be taken by the way. Mchimbidza mshumo mihasho ya muvhuso I fanela u tevhela milayo ya u thola vhathu vhane vha dzula kana vhane vha vha na thaidzo ya u tshila fhasi ha mutsiko une ha vha uri abako ndi vhathu vha songo ḓilinganelaho. Hoyu muhasho u tea uri u khwinifhadze na u isa phanḓa uri vhashumi kana private sector vha kone u thola na vhone vhatholiwe vha vhe vhashumi u fana na vhaṅwe na vhaṅwe. The ANC believes that the issue of marginalized groups such as persons with disability being mainstreamed and put at the center stage. The Department of Monitoring and Evaluation and Parliament should play an effective monitoring role to ensure that issues raised by the sector find its expression. Honorable House Chair, I want to also take this opportunity to try and ask Honorable Brit, or be it a Brit, I'm sorry for pronouncing it badly, or in all the issues that she has raised, where is she in when we are sitting as a portfolio, because we have a role to advise and make sure that whatever that needs to be done by the department, we all advise. I've never seen her. I've just seen her today. I was not even aware she's part of this committee, but she raises a number of effort. But I want to say to South Africans, she's not doing her role. Honorable House Chair, I also take forward to say the department has made its role and tried to push the task in working with issues of albinism. So the department is doing well. Honorable Sheriff, you know better. We've been as a portfolio, we will go to oversight. The department is trying to do its all best. It's just that we have not yet arrived where we want to arrive. The ANC government should take measures to ensure that all the buildings are accessible to people with disabilities. Secondly, the government department and private sector institution that fails to meet employment targets of people with disability. There must be no access to both and the public-private sector when it comes to making sure persons with living with disability and integrated and feel in their hearts in all the ways. The state development and social infrastructure such as human settlement, bridges, schools, and etc. must consistently lead in the regards to the protection and dignity of persons living with disability. Honorable House Chair, we welcome and support the effort of the state president in committing to deal with issues affecting persons with disability. As we move forward, on the 14th March, the president has addressed the Presidential Working Committee dealing with disability. In his address, I quote, first, we should increase funding for disability-related programs and services. This will include funding for education, training, employment, and healthcare services for the people living with disability. I close quote. Honorable House Chair, the department is doing very well. Sheriff knows it better, even though we have to brush and try to make it further. We are aware, even in the portfolio committee, we have addressed the issue of Western Cape. Honorable House Chair, we are aware that Western Cape CG offices are not operating, and the department has promised to make it a point the offices will operate as soon as possible. House Chair, as the ANC, this is our effort, and we are making sure that the CGE NYDA makes it a point, their vision and mission are attained. It is our role in this committee, Chair. Honorable House Chair, can you protect me? I think they are drowning me into the noise. I seek protection.
Just wait, honorable members. Honorable members, you are allowed to heckle, but the room is very small. If you can do it a little bit better. Can you please proceed, Honorable Cyril? Honorable Perry, can you proceed?
Honorable House Chair, the ANC and as a leading government party has made a call to the department to also incorporate on issues of gender-based violence and make it a point that we are bringing as a portfolio to the House the bill of gender-based violence. Honorable House Chair, the department also recognize and accept people who are the LGBTQIA+, and they are making sure we are working with them and the programs. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, House Chairperson. The National Freedom Party will support the budget vote tabled here today. All right, let me start off by asking this question. We have 14 political parties in Parliament. Can you do a head count of how many people with physical disabilities each political party has, and why many of them that are raising concerns are not doing likewise in this? We only have 2 members in Parliament. Look at those who have a lot more and ask themselves, how many physically challenged people do they employ for starting? But Chairperson, allow me to draw the attention of this House.
Honorable Sheikh Imam, can you wait? Honorable members, I repeat again, the room is very small. Can we please try and not drown the speaker? Thank you very much. Honorable Kaula. Honorable Kaula, can you please lower your voices, please? Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Chairperson. Allow me to draw the attention of this House that apartheid Israel killed 2,171 children thus far. And more importantly, 40 people were killed in Palestine by the Israeli apartheid regime this year alone. Now, Chairperson, Yes, the youth unemployment rate is very, very high in the country. And we talk a lot about gender-based violence, but Honorable Minister, I want to say that if you want to deal with gender-based violence, you have to get to the grassroots of what it is. You're not going to solve this by sitting and debating in Parliament all the time, but to identify why we have such a dysfunctional society from grassroots level. And I want to plead with you, Minister, put measures in place from grassroots level at schools, together with the social workers in the communities. Identify those children that are coming from dysfunction and save them at that early stage. When they grow up, it's too late. No child is born a murderer or born a rapist. We need to ask what went wrong, when did it go wrong, how did it go wrong, and why did it go wrong. That's what we need to do. You know, I gave an example of unemployment, Chairperson. You know, if you want to have a haircut, I've said this again and again in South Africa, you'll never get a local barber available. And we have 4,500 wards in South Africa. What stops us? Through empowering these youth, letting them become barbers. These people are earning a lot of money. That's why they leave their wives, children, families, and they come here. Why can't we introduce? So there's a lot we can actually do as far as the youth are concerned in this country. As far as the women are concerned, I want to raise concerns again. You know, we've come back from Kimberley on the weekend and things, and SAPS has just recruited a lot of them. But there's a huge discrepancy between the males and the females. A lot more males have been recruited rather than female. So I think we need to attend to that as well. But very importantly, I think we need to understand that we need to work together to be able to address the problems that we see. We're not going to do it in isolation. We're not going to do it by attacking each other, but only if we can come together collectively can we address the concerns and the challenges that we have in the country currently. Thank you very much. The National Freedom Party will support this.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tarapela Machezi.
Honorable Chair, it becomes very difficult to advocate for a budget increase where you have the concern of the department's performance. Since its establishment or inception in 2009, unfortunately, there's been very little to show in terms of achievement, implementation, framework, or tools. In fact, Honorable Chair, I doubt even if this department knows its responsibilities. This lack of progress is particularly alarming when you consider that the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide continues to rise. Honorable Chair, the department's role is to conduct programs that mainstream, monitor, and advocate for women. However, the results have been extremely disappointing, Minister. What is even more troubling is the fact that the excessive expenditure that this department spends on writing reports, workshops, and conferences, in just the last 3 years, the department has spent an average of over 30 million on such events. Chairperson, I believe that South Africans at this stage are very much aware of gender-based violence. What we need is to focus on monitoring and mainstreaming the mechanism that lead to prosecution of GBVF cases. There are several interventions that this department can embark on to address gender-based violence and femicide. Women who experience GBV need to see the department taking action on the following. First of all, as you all know, when you go to the police station to go and report GBV, you'll have a police that is sitting behind the desk that is absolutely willing and reluctant to open a case. They will inadequately report on them and they will not even properly investigate the cases, which actually hinders the case prosecution in court. The economic dependency plays a critical role as financially dependent women are also often very reluctant to report on GBV. There's also the alarming rate of case withdrawals, which highlights the lack of confidence in the state machinery. You also have an issue of medical officers and doctors who are sometimes unwilling to accurately fill in evidence and complete the J88 form. Prosecutors are also overwhelmed with numerous cases and may not even give the cases the attention they deserve because they've seen too many gender-based violence cases, and sometimes they think some of them are not as traumatic as they've seen previously. The lengthy turnaround time from the police station to conviction or acquittal is also unacceptable. Instead of this department continuing writing reports, I think they should really choose one of these issues and report on its progress over the next 5 years. This actually this approach will actually be able to give us more of a tangible improvement. Secondly, Chair, if we have to address the department's role as a custodian of the rights of people with disability over the past 10 years, that is also being absolutely dismantled. The fact that the department hasn't actually been able to ensure that the budget that is provided is adequate. At the moment, we've only seen, according to our APP, that the budget allocation is about 13 million for this year, and millions have been given to people with disability for the last decade. But yet, there are still questions that we have as a department, as a committee, that were not responded to by the department. For instance, has the department drafted legislation on the rights of persons with disabilities? The answer is no. There's very little progress from the white paper. Are there meaningful skill building programs providing employment opportunities for persons with disability? Sadly, no. Instead, they're often limited to soft skills like basket weaving. Has the government mainstream inclusive schooling for persons with disabilities? Regrettably, no. The Minister of Basic Education approved the screening, identification, assessment, and support policy to remove barriers to learning for learners with disabilities. Yet only 22% of learners of school-going age do attend because of an illness or do not attend because of illness or disability. And ordinary schools are not universally accessible for those experiencing a physical disability. And according to the Department of Labor, persons with disabilities are the ones who have the most heartbreaking. However, 2% employment equity representation of people with disability is not being realized in the public or the private sector due to a lack of advocacy and awareness for this group. Lastly, women empowerment is also an issue which is very disheartening. The fact that we have 51% of South African population, women who are still underrepresented in labor force or lack leadership positions is also of concern. We really need to make sure that women are empowered. It's been over a decade now that this department has been in existence, and yet we're not seeing any empowerment of women. In order to overcome these challenges, we urgently need a new mindset, minister, and fresh ideas. And I hope that's what you're going to be bringing into this department. Because we cannot continue to be doing the same thing over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker will be Honorable Marekwa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, House Chairperson, the Minister and the Deputy Minister, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Claudia Daba. Yeah. Honorable members of Parliament and a delegation from ISO and NYTA and the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability. Honorable Chairperson, allow me to start just to give some response to what I've heard being raised, which also might be a concern, and we cannot leave them unanswered. To Honorable Sukers, the issue of water in Warrenton. From the Northern Cape Province, we know that the Maharing municipality is currently busy addressing the service delivery issues caused by aged infrastructure in that area of Warrenton. We know that the pipes are coming many years back, and that the municipality also is providing interim relief to make sure that people do not really go out without water in terms of whilst they are preparing or trying to repair the damages from the water pumps. The Northern Cape, on the issue of the women along the road, Honorable Sukers, the Northern Cape government is mindful of the plight of women, youth, and persons with disability in our communities, and has recently established a new ministry that will address all challenges related to women and youth and girls within the Northern Cape province. So those issues that we have raised, surely they will get the necessary attention, and the law will also come in and assist the provincial government of the Northern Cape. The Honorable Machesi, yes. The police stations do have victim-friendly rooms. Police stations do have victim-friendly rooms. Police stations do have victim-friendly rooms and statements where there are no victim-friendly rooms. There is privacy provided for victims of rape and sexual assault and other GBV-related cases, for them to have privacy where their statements will be taken. So this caring ANC government, make sure that women and those who have been assaulted do not stand in public with everybody to give their statements. There is privacy provided. Where there are no victim, provision is made that their statements are taken in privacy. They don't queue with other people. We were in Mpumalanga just recently to remind those who were, Honorable Machesi was not part of the committee by then. There are victim-friendly rooms, there are Tutuzela care centers, and there is privacy all the time. That I can bet you. Yeah, it's true. We might just be, because opposition, we will deny the facts that are there. It's their duty actually, yeah. Honorable Chairperson, let me go to my input for today. We cannot address gender mainstreaming without talking to patriarchy. As we know that as this current government or this democracy, we took from a government that was oppressing and not caring about the rights of all the people. Patriarchy is a system which is entrenched globally, and so in the case of our beloved South Africa, the African National Congress has been leading the light in ensuring that gender issues are mainstreamed in all facets of society. As a movement, we are not yet at the desired stage, and we continue to develop and implement policies which respond to the needs of women. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5 on gender equality, it advocates achieving gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls. The UN problematizes the gender bias as follows. That is an undermining of social fabric and it undermines social fabric and devalues all of us. It is not just human rights issues, it is a tremendous waste of the world's human potential. By denying women equal rights, we deny half the population a chance to live life at its fullest. Political, economic, and social equality for women will benefit all the world's citizens. Together we can eradicate prejudice and work for equal rights and respect for all. Goal 17 of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union it's themed as follows: the Africa we want. Further adds to this and addresses the issues of women empowerment, calling for full gender equality in all spheres of life, looking into addressing the challenges of women and girls' empowerment, violence and discrimination against women and girls. Globally, there is huge acceptance that gender bias and empowerment of women and girls are critical if we are to live in a world that is interested in sustained development, and there is a great need for violence and discrimination against women for the greater attainment of enjoyment of their rights. Women inclusive society should and must be of interest to all. There can be no better way in emphasizing the centrality of and importance of women's emancipation than recalling the words of the late President Samora Machel of the from Mozambique. I quote, "The emancipation of women is not an act of charity, the result of a humanitarian or compassionate attitude. The liberation of women is a fundamental necessity for the revolution, a guarantee of its continuity and condition for its victory." I close quote. These words by one of the greatest leaders of Africa in our continent. It is alludes to the fact of moving away from gender biases, and the emancipation of women and girls is crucial in transforming society. Thus includes our country, South Africa. House Chairperson, the mandate of the department requires compliance on all organs of state and private sector. We welcome the department processes of the development of the promotion of women's rights, empowerment, and gender equality bill. Those will be crucial to mainstreaming gender equality and call on the department to finalize its bill as a critical instrument to institutionalize gender interventions. In doing this task, there must be an effort also greater to include an integration of the LGBTQIA+ community and other marginalized groups. Gender responsive planning and budget that is coordinated in all spheres of government remains key to addressing the scourge of GBV and femicide in an appropriate and impactful manner. ANC continues working hand in hand with social partners in building a safe nation free of GBV, social ills, and other forms of discrimination. ANC supports this budget vote. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. The next and last speaker will be Honorable the Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities.
Thank you very much, Chair, Honorable Chairperson. I will not respond to everything that has been said in the limited time that I have. But as a matter of principle, I just want to say it's a responsibility for all of us. We can't just be pointing fingers at one department. GBV is a societal problem that we must all address in our homes, in our streets, in our areas, and everywhere, and more so as public representatives. So I think that must be understood. And I agree that we must look at the drivers of GBV, that I agree with. But let me say, Umakaula, you've actually said that this department works. Women are producing. Yes. Yes. And they are more intelligent than some of you that think they can only work if government comes and gives them something. Women are producing because they are clever. They know they have to produce when they can, right? So you are actually on our side. But I won't answer your questions anymore because you are not supporting the budget. So how am I going to work if you are not supporting the budget? I won't. But thank you for telling us that women are working, which means this department is working. They are producing. Yes. And also, the NYDA does work. You may not like what they do, but they work. And they do support young people. Yesterday, I was at the head of where we were at a school, young people were assisting children to improve their reading skills, and they are supported by NYDA. I went around Langa, I went to a laundromat, I went to a sneaker cleaning spa, and so on, all supported by NYDA, just here. without mentioning many other places. So, but of course, I expected this portfolio committee. I'm very disappointed. I expected it to say, how can this department that is in charge of women, youth, and persons with disability only be left with 200, including compensation of employees, and you expect us to do everything? So I thought you would be saying, you are going to be saying to Treasury, they must give us more money. Yes. Then we can give the women what Makaula is saying. What is money for? Oh yes, money. And then I also want to say that to the FF Plus, the reason we are working with the Defense Force is precisely for the Defense Force to skill young people. Because if they are not skilled, even if they are jobs, they are not going to get them. So they need to be skilled so that they can get jobs or create jobs. So that's what we are doing. And I don't know what more you want, because it's a new program, because we have realized that a lot of young people are unemployable. Because if you don't have a skill, they could be a job, but you can't be employed. So I think you should support that if you want young people to be employed and skilled. And of course, we appreciate, Mamshong, what you have said, and you have supported us, and I appreciate that. So EFF, you must support the budget. How can you say we're not doing all these things, but then you don't support the budget? How are we going to do it without the budget? How? Young bag. So just support the budget, really. Just support the department. We know it's Aizuvalwa because people still need the services. But let me also say that we are going to invite some of, I don't know, a delegation from this portfolio committee. We're going to have an exciting event in September. No, listen first before you speak. Learn to listen. We're going to have an event where we celebrate youth excellence, youth innovation, youth entrepreneurs, and we're going to give awards to youth under 40, and the event is called 40 Under 40 Innovators. So we will invite a delegation. You will decide who comes, but yeah, nominated, nominate. The nominations are open already for that 40 under 40. Must go and look for the link. So, because we must encourage young people to be innovative, to be professional, to aim for excellence. So if we don't recognize them, they will not do it. So we want to recognize them to be an exciting event. And it's an event that we want to do every year and encouraging young people. But otherwise, I want to just end by saying we are all responsible citizens, including the members of the opposition, and they must do their part. Government is doing its part, you are doing your part. Your part is not only to shout at government, your part is also to work on the ground, to do all the things they are saying we must do. So please do your part. And I want to end by quoting Haile Selassie when he said, throughout history, it has been the inactive of those who could have acted, the indifference of those who should have known better, the silence of the voice of justice when it mattered most, that has made it possible for evil to triumph. So act on the ground, make sure that when there's GBV, you are part of the community, making sure you are stopping it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, you are reminded that the debate order. Honorable members, you are reminded that the debate on police, including independent police investigative directorate and civilian secretariat for the police service budget votes, will take place at 1400 in the Good Hope chamber, and the debate on science and innovation budget vote will take place at 1400 in this very same room. That concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary. The mini plenary will now rise.
Recording stopped.